What about
Awesome.
you? Where are you at?
I'm up in Erie.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far from that is here? Or how far from here is Erie?
Probably like an hour and a half.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
that north or
Yeah, I'm like 25, 30 minutes north of Denver.
okay. All right. You coming down to watch the Broncos on Saturday or what?
Probably not, but
Yeah.
that'll be a good game. I'll be watching.
Yeah. Are you a big Broncos fan or like Denver sports fan or nah?
Yeah, I grew up going to Broncos games. My dad played football in college, so we always had
Oh,
season
really?
tickets and stuff. So that was fun. But I'm probably not as good of a fan as I should be. I like kind of dropped the habit in college. Just we were competing most Sundays, and now it's just hard to justify, 4 hours every weekend trying to watch games. So I occasionally catch games, and then I'll catch highlights and stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. Like, are you even a sports fan? I've been surprised at how many people I talk to. And I mean, if it wasn't for wrestling, they probably wouldn't really do anything with sports. Like they're like, I don't care
Yeah,
about anything. So is that you
that's
or do you like sports?
that's funny. I like sports. I really like live sports. I think it's like just the environment being in an arena. And I think it's cool to watch, elite athletes do their thing, no matter where or what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I just think the current stage of life I'm in, it's like it's hard for me to spend, I got buddies that'll watch college football every Saturday all day and then football, Sunday they'll watch NFL stuff. And it's like I just want to do more things on my weekend than just sit on the couch. And no,
Yeah.
like, no hate to that. Like I get it, it's fun. And I think like stuff like sports betting makes it more interesting at times. But yeah, I don't know. It's not my ideal, 6 hours on a couch on a weekend.
Yeah. So okay, so you're saying you just said something about the current stage of your life. What is that? What stage of your life are you in right now?
It's a good question. I don't know, man. Like, figure out what the heck I want to do for the next, 60 years or something like that. And yeah, I don't know. I think just like young professional trying to figure out what I'm passionate about, what's my vocational like calling, I guess. I don't know.
What are you passionate about?
I kind of fell into coaching on accident, and I
Oh,
realized
really?
that yeah, like, I went out to Stanford after college, and I was really just looking to be an RTC athlete and was looking around at different places, and my wife just happened to be a second round interview at a neuroscience lab there, and
Oh,
Cole called me and he was like, "Hey, I just need you to sit in the corner, help recruit, you do your own training and that's that." And so I was like, "Sounds like a good deal. I'll come out." And then I kind of realized how cool it was, coaching and I don't know, I think it's really rewarding and it's a fun aspect of kind of going back and helping people up the ladder that you were trying to climb up at one point. And so um I don't know I don't know. That was a kind of a long way to get to. I think in some capacity that stuff's fun. I think I'm interested in a lot of different things, and so trying to figure out what that looks like. I did econ for my major in college and did a master's of science in management studies, and so I'm kind of interested in economics, businesses, investment opportunities, and like stuff like that's interesting to me as well. And then health and fitness and sports are interesting. So trying to figure out how to blend all that and where the line is.
yeah, yeah. How did you end up back in now you're in Erie, you said. So how'd you end up back
Yep.
in Erie?
Yeah, so I spent 2 years coaching at Stanford. Really liked it, enjoyed it. Team was awesome, coaches were awesome. There's even like a change with Ayers coming and Cole leaving, and then um, my wife got into a PhD program, and so
Wow.
she got into UT Austin, Vanderbilt, UNC, Chapel Hill, and then CU Boulder. And so she just kind of talked to some mentors, and like the best opportunity for her seemed to be the CU one. They got a really good. She's doing neuroscience and behavioral genetics, and they have a really good database of like twin studies. I guess they're like really high end data because you have two people with the exact same genetics, and so it's a good
Yeah.
it's hard to find that kind of comparison model. So she was like, I think this is what's best for me, and I'm like, sweet, my family's out there, that's awesome for me, and stars kind of aligned for us to make a decision that was good for our family and then good for us both individually too.
Yeah. Cool. Dang, PhD. What's her what do you call it? Gonna be about dissertation.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if she needs to do a dissertation or not. I'm sure she
Yeah.
probably does. Maybe this is bad on my part. She basically, I guess, so you get your master's, and I think
Mhm.
you defend your master's after your first 2 years, and then you have a PhD after that. And so the whole time they're like publishing papers and developing like research methods. She's very interested in like neurodevelopmental disorders. So like a lot of her research papers are she was doing like autism, Noonan
Mhm.
syndrome, like ADHD, stuff like that, and trying to like understand that more at early development.
And that could be pretty interesting. Like
Yeah.
over my head, like
Yep.
I would
Me
want
too.
to yeah, like I would like to learn about that stuff, but like you need to kind of give me in like a fifth grade level, you know?
Right. Me too, brother. Like yeah, she'll like publish a paper and I'll read the abstract and be like, you're gonna have to dumb this down for me. I'm just not, you know. And they love like abbreviating things, and I'm like, oh, you gotta give me like a key with all the actual words, you know.
Geez, okay. If they need to really dumb it down for me then, because you were a 4.0 student in high school, Northwestern, like I'm just a Nebraska grad. No
Stop.
knock at Nebraska, but like you know. Um, speaking of school, like was that something that came easy to you, as you were growing up? Like I said, you were a 4.0 student in high school, you got into Northwestern, like
Yeah. I don't know that it came easy, but I think I honestly think like when you're younger, school is like if you work hard, I think that's like maybe a little insensitive at a certain degree, but I think generally like I learned, the more time I put into this, like the better I did at stuff. And I think my parents did a good job of like putting an expectation on that early. And like my dad would always say, like, I'm not going to be mad at you if you get a B if you're a B student, but if you're an A student and you get a B, like that's not okay, you know? And so um, I think somehow in there it made me care about school. And then it was like, I was like, no, I should have got a better grade on this. It also helped. My mom was a first grade teacher, so I'm sure she was reading books to us and stuff when I was really little. And I
mhm,
had that like early head start. I think my mom did a great job of making education part of our childhood.
mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. I think generally like it was hard work and my parents instilling stuff. And then I like to think that I had some, baseline level of intelligence, but I don't, yeah, I'm not like, I mean, I had to study for college. I'll tell you what, like that wasn't,
Mhm.
it's not just you walk in there and do well.
Yeah. Were you valedictorian then?
I was not, no. It was funny though,
What?
like I think wrestling, well, we had we had a lot of smart people at my high school. I went to a pretty good high school. And like, I mean, I had a buddy that he was our salutatorian and he was like over my head smart. Um, but just didn't get the same, like he went to a great college, but didn't get the same college opportunities because, he was all academics where it's pretty cool. Like sports can open some doors. Like, I don't know that I would have got into Northwestern as just a normal student. Um, but because of wrestling, you get into it. I got into, Stanford. I had opportunities at Cornell. There was like a lot of cool opportunities because of wrestling. And I think that's one of the like awesome things about sports is, it gives you a little bit of an unfair advantage to get into places that you wouldn't. It just gives you diversity, I guess, in your profile for a college.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like it gives you another kind of feather in your cap and um, another reason for what was I trying to say? Basically, it makes you more marketable in a
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
like you
for
were kind of
sure.
saying.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess from the beginning, real quick, like how did you even get into wrestling? Like, was it a
My
did, did your dad do it? It sounds like he played football, so I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, my dad played football in college
Where at?
at Bloomsburg University. They're a Division II school in Pennsylvania. They're Division I for wrestling.
Hmm.
And he wrestled in high school, and I think, I was playing, I was like probably every other kid playing soccer at 4 and like just doing sports.
Yeah.
And he saw an ad in the paper and he was like, Ryan, I think you got too much energy. I think you'd be good at this. And I was like, cool, let's do it. I was 6 or 7. And so I went. And the only reason I remember this a little bit, or maybe I'm just remembering the story of being told this, but um, our team was like an all blue, like we had blue singlets. And like I came in like December, or January. So it was like, 2 months into the season. I missed all the like gear, like where you
Uh,
could order gear and stuff. And so went to like Dick's Sporting Goods, and the only singlet that fit me at 40 pounds or whatever was like this little red singlet. So I just remember feeling like I'm like, why am I wearing red and my whole team's blue at
mhm.
tournaments? And that was my early experience with wrestling.
Are your parents from Colorado then, or like, because he went to,
No.
okay,
Yeah, my dad's from Pennsylvania, my mom's from Iowa.
really?
Yeah.
How did that end up
Yeah,
working
that's a
out?
good question. My dad, I guess the program, he was like a kinesiology major. He was
Oh, okay.
originally doing like sports medicine, physical therapy stuff, and
Yeah.
then just kind of fell into real estate and was like, I can't support, 3 kids on kinesiology, physical therapy stuff. And so now he's done real estate. He, for his like school, I guess, had to finish his last semester at college with like an internship somewhere. And there was like some internships in Colorado. And he's like, that sounds cool. And so he came out to
Mhm.
Colorado, and my mom grew up skiing out here and loved it. So she went to CU Boulder. And so I guess they met. My dad worked with my mom's roommate. And so she kind of set him up on a blind date. And, the rest was history.
Yeah. Wow. So so you're though, like you and the rest of your siblings are from Colorado, like born and
Yeah.
raised.
Yep.
Okay.
Born and raised. Yep.
Okay. Where from Iowa is she from?
Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. I'm
Yeah, it's
from
kind of
Iowa,
funny.
so
It is.
yeah.
It's a big wrestling. Like when you think about it that way, like Iowa, Pennsylvania, like wrestling states. But I mean, my dad did it in high school, but it wasn't huge. And my mom just, I don't think she was around wrestling the way. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just happened to be
Yeah.
there from there.
Yeah. And and she went to CU Boulder. That's something also you don't really hear about is like somebody from Iowa going to college in Colorado.
Yeah, I think she just they skied a lot, and so she was
Yeah.
like, I like Colorado. But yeah.
Yeah. And so when did they move to Broomfield?
Um. It's a good question. Probably around, I was young,
Yeah.
probably like I think we lived in Thornton, and then
Okay.
maybe when I was in like first grade, maybe like 2004 or something, we moved to Broomfield.
Okay.
So kind of always around the Denver area.
Yeah. So but that's where you're from is Broomfield. That's where you grew up and all that. And
Yep.
that's where you wrestled.
Yeah, I went to Legacy High School.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, Legacy, and then just a bunch of different clubs throughout the state, and then obviously my high school stuff. Um,
Yeah.
my parents super fortunate, like my dad would take me everywhere, like some of the like fondest memories where every Friday we'd be in some random part of the country doing wrestling tournaments and stuff like that, so it was fun. But yeah, Colorado was where I grew up.
Was it just the two of you that would go? I mean, did you like haul a van load of kids or family go?
Yeah.
Or was it just you and
Yeah,
your
yeah.
dad?
Dependent, like I was part of a couple different clubs, and Mile High, which I'm actually helping out at now,
Oh,
and then
nice. Okay.
Colorado Elite Wrestling, where our coach Tony Shunky, he had like just like a big sprinter van, and so we'd like I remember just piling in that thing. We'd have 12 kids in the back laying down, sleeping, driving to tournaments, and that was a lot of fun. So that was cool. Usually would know some people, but there was definitely times where it was like my dad and I flew out, and my dad would sit in my corners, and that was that. He didn't really know wrestling, but he could scream, high effort, and he saw me wrestle enough. Or I had a coach there, but yeah, it was kind of split. Sometimes it was really fun when you're with friends and doing that, and then sometimes we were flying, and it was just kind of on your own.
Yeah, I like that. Did he become more invested as you kind of got older? And did he like start to learn the technique and the verbiage and stuff as you got older and more into it?
Yeah, he understood it.
Yeah.
I think he also like there became a point where, I think most p parents and kids like you butt heads a little bit. And
Yeah.
I remember in like sixth grade or something, and just got out of like a tough wrestling practice, and I'm getting an earful from my dad about something I wasn't like maybe probably didn't have the best attitude or like wasn't as much effort as I should have, and kind of just was like, hey, I just want you to be my dad, not my coach. And honestly, like to his credit, he like took it great and was like, gotcha, hear you.
Mhm.
And from that day on, for a couple months, he would like drop me off at practice, go to like a coffee shop and do some work, and then come pick me up. And like it was cool. And then eventually, like I think we were in a spot where he would just, watch practice and really not say much. And um, so I think he did a great job of kind of stepping away at a certain point too and letting me take care of what I needed to take care of. And that was probably like late middle school, early high school. And then he was always there taking me places and supporting me. But it was, yeah, I don't know. He did a great job of like
Yeah.
backing off when I kind of got to the point where, your dad is like your hero growing up. And so I think it's easy to take his um, loving criticism in a bad way, and so I
Mhm.
think he did a great job with that. I don't know. That was kind of a long roundabout way to say
Yeah, no, you're good
that.
because that's good on both of you. You for setting the boundary a little bit and him respecting it. Like that was pretty mature of both of you, at that point in time. Like,
I think I made it sound better. Like I probably didn't approach it the best way, but I think he did a great job. Yeah.
yeah. Um, because that can be difficult to for a dad to back off and but I like what you said when he was in your corner saying like high effort, like those are just normal, those are things that anybody can preach and get on you about, like
Yeah.
of course if he's trying to say do the single leg this way and he doesn't know what he's talking about, but high effort, energy, don't quit, like those are all mentalities that we can all live by.
Yeah, I think one of his biggest things was like, stop being so nice. You got to fight out there.
You-
uh, so it was funny, but like, I mean, good advice. It was funny. That was his go-to, or I'd be like, almost turn somebody, and he'd be like, why don't you just pick them up and turn them? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I should have thought of that. I wasn't really trying, huh? Like he's also wrestling, right?
Yeah, yeah. I struggled with that actually as well, like too nice, like I there are some people that have that innate ability to just like,
Yeah,
when they're down, you knock them out,
yeah.
and that just was not me. I couldn't, and I could never get myself to do that. Was that, it sounds like maybe that you had an issue with that a little bit growing up.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm competitive. So like I was
Okay.
scrappy. But I don't know if that really flipped until I like, kind of hit puberty and was a little bit older,
Hmm.
and kind of been punched in the mouth a few times, like metaphorically,
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I had a coach, Tommy Klum. He was at our coach at Mile High, and he was like, when I was about to leave to college, he's like, listen, you're gonna be. It's probably good if you're a little rough around the edges, for the next couple of years. So you'd be as nice you want off the mat, but like on the mat, um, it's gotta be a little chippy. And I think that paired with, I was wrestling around intense guys. Like Andrew Howe was my coach. Like I don't know if there's a more intense dude. Uh, and also just phenomenal coach. He was so good at like he's the nicest guy ever, would do anything for you. He's like your best friend. And then when he flips that switch and it's time to go, like everyone, he starts speaking, everyone like perks up and is listening. Like he really gained that respect. Um, I mean, I had coaches like Matt Storniolo, Cody Brewer, Jimmy Kennedy, Mike McMullen, Emery Parker. Like we had some great coaches. So I think that was
Yeah.
good. And then my roommate, Sebastian Rivera, I lived with him for 4 years in college, and he was just Jersey through and through, and like
Mhm.
just it's a different attitude. And I think that honestly helped me kind of learn um, like a little FU mentality. It was
Hmm.
just like it was personal, everything was personal, and you're going out there to rip their heads off. And So yeah, I think there was probably a learning curve. I wasn't as naturally that way, and then you
Yeah.
kind of start to develop it.
Yeah. Real quick about your mom though, like did she get into wrestling the more you got into it? Kind of like I asked about your dad. Was she somebody or was she like the wrestling mom, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, yes and no. Like she
Yeah.
loved it, supported everything. She was there all the time and like, but I think one of the coolest things is like my mom's just like the sweetest person and she was somebody that like could care less how I did in wrestling. She just like cared about me as a person. I think that kind of helped
Yeah.
me like when I was competing, I'm like I can't disappoint my mom. Like she's happy, she'll feel bad for me if I lose, but she's not like
Hmm.
she was never critical on me about anything. And she was always just supportive and happy. I think it stressed her out, like most moms. Like, like she didn't love it. It's a little bit rougher of a sport, and she's
Hmm.
like a gentle person. But she saw it made me happy, and she was always there supporting and probably looking away when stuff was getting close, and then peeking through her fingers. But yeah, she was
Yeah.
she was awesome.
Yeah. Did you do the circuit, the sports circuit when you were a younger kid, like football, soccer, basketball, baseball, all the
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
played everything really. And then probably by like middle schoolish, I kind of narrowed it to football, lacrosse, wrestling, and um,
Lacrosse?
I love lacrosse. That's my favorite
Really?
sport. Another life, man. I think like, and you don't need to be that big. Football, I was going to the NFL until I realized I was 99 pounds freshman year of high school. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, I mean, I love lacrosse. It was like soccer, which I loved soccer growing up, but you could hit people, like the contact, and it was cool. But it was so fast paced. Um, so I loved it. And then after freshman year of high school, I was traveling a lot. And so I was like, all right, I'm not gonna probably play football. Um, and then lacrosse, our school, actually, we had like a district team, but it wasn't at my high school. So it was kind of a pain getting to practices. You had to go like 20 minutes away to another high school. And I was starting to do freestyle and Greco because I'd never really done freestyle and Greco.
Hmm.
So after freshman year, I was just wrestling. But I think there's a lot of value in playing a lot of sports, and I loved it. It was a good
Yeah.
like mental break too. Lacrosse was my mess around sport. Like I got done with wrestling season, it was fun.
Hmm.
Football was same thing. Like all my buddies are playing football. Um, it's just a great sport. And then wrestling was like, wrestling's awesome. So it was a lot of different. Every season had a different sport.
Yeah. Isn't there like a major league lacrosse team here in Denver?
Yeah, the Outlaws, I think. And then
Yeah.
I think there's an indoor, I think it's the Mammoth indoor, like they play at Ball Arena. Lacrosse is sweet. If you ever like get
Yeah.
a chance, it's so much fun and it's like hockey.
Hmm.
It's just like kind of that rough, fast pace. Like it's a cool sport.
Yeah, I see him playing all the time here on campus. Well, now anyway, because I think lacrosse season is coming up here shortly, right? A
I
couple
think
months
so.
away.
I don't know if college follows the youth stuff, but that
Yeah,
that sounds right.
yeah. So yeah, they're practicing right now. I see him down there, so I'll have to catch a game or two.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely do. It's a
yeah,
fun sport.
yeah. So when your dreams of being an NFL player died, rest in peace. Is that when you kind of like started to take over wrestling? Like that was your sport?
No, I mean, I think I knew before that. Like,
Oh, really?
I think people do a good job of self-selecting into sports a little bit because when you have success at something, it's more fun. Like, if we're honest with ourselves, and I was pretty like I wasn't a world beater when I was really young, but I was pretty good from the start. Like I was athletic and I think just like able to understand a little bit of technique. And so like I wasn't rolling to my back as quickly as some of the younger kids. And so I was like, winning a little bit more than I was losing. And so that was fun.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I think, having some earlier success kind of made me enjoy the sport more, even with I don't know, emotional roller coaster that wrestling can be for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when did you start thinking you were going to do it at the next level? When did you
Yeah, it's,
become aware that you could even wrestle at the next level? Because I mean, like
yeah,
sometimes I talk to people and they're like, I didn't even know college wrestling, like I knew it existed, but I didn't really know about it, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I think I was kind of honestly like in the here and now. Like I loved wrestling. I was young. I won like middle school state or whatever. And then it wasn't probably till I don't know, freshman year of high school, I had buddies that probably liked wrestling more than me at that point. And my one buddy Matt he's like, oh, like the finals for NCAAs are tonight. We should watch them. And I'm like, I have no idea what. I'm like, okay, college wrestling, but I didn't watch it, you know.
Right.
And I remember watching that, and I remember actually funny story, watching Cody Brewer like win a national title as like a 12th seed. Uh,
Mhm.
and just like it was awesome. Like this is sweet. Like it'd be really cool to do this one day. Brewer ended up coaching me at Northwestern, which is a cool
Yeah,
full
that's
circle
wild.
moment.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first time I like really watched that, and I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. But I think it's always I don't know when the switch was like I could actually do this, but I was just trying to get better at wrestling, continue to wrestle, and then I slowly started, I All American at Fargo, and then I was starting to get like college letters. They used to send like they couldn't send it to you directly, but they could send it to your school. So my
Yeah.
guidance counselor would be like, "Hey Ryan, I got some mail for you," and it was like, a letter from Stanford, a letter from Air Force, and it was like, this is sweet. This is really cool. And so um, that's when I kind of, I think, got to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I want to do this at the next level.
You're getting you're getting mail at your high school from your guidance counselor.
Well, my guidance counselor, it was funny because it was such a different time.
Right.
Um, but my guidance counselor, I remember she had two boys that played baseball, and she's like, "Are you on like these recruiting apps, or like how are you getting these letters?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just go to like my dad takes me to national tournaments, and like if you do all right, like sometimes they'll send you a letter. I don't know." So I don't know. I think wrestling recruiting is a lot different than it used to be, probably, but it is different from other sports too, where my wife played soccer at Northwestern, and they go to like,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Northwestern gave me a lot of cool things, and number
Yeah.
one being my wife. But she like growing up for the recruiting for soccer is like you go to like college showcases, and coaches kind of recognize you. Where I think wrestling, it's like you go to a big tournament, you do well, or you're on Flow Wrestling's rankings list, like you
Mhm.
get some interest.
Yeah. Yeah, like you go to like I'm thinking of like football and you'll go to like camps,
Right. Yeah.
know? And that's where all the scouts are and they'll see you and stuff. And then it seems like it'll trickle into games and they'll go and watch your games and stuff. But um cool. So your wife played soccer at Northwestern. Okay.
Yeah.
How good were
Yep.
they good? Was Northwest like are they good at soccer?
Yeah, sh my freshman year they won the Big Tens. But then
Oh
kind of
wow.
over the course, like they were all right.
Yeah.
Probably not. They did a little better, honestly, right after we left. They
Yeah.
started having a little more success and winning some um like a one round or something deep in an NCAA tournament. So they're pretty good. They're not like, top five team every year or
Mhm.
something like that. But Northwestern women's sports typically, like they were so good. Lacrosse was always winning it, or at least getting deep in the playoffs. Field hockey won, I think, the last couple years in a row, or maybe one year in between there where they didn't. Softball was really good when I was there. Women's basketball was good. Like Northwestern's women's sports was really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember um I was gonna ask you about the lacrosse or the field hockey team. Did you go to a field hockey game? Because they are
Yeah,
so
we
good.
yeah, they
They
were
are
fun.
really good.
Yeah, we would try to every once in a while, like our coach was pretty good friends with the field hockey coach, and so we'd
Nice.
like try to get our whole team out there and support. It was pretty cool. The athletic community was it's smaller. Northwestern's definitely a smaller school, and so it's pretty tight knit. And at any given sporting event, you'd kind of find your crowd of, we have a bunch of athletes at the volleyball games, at a softball game, at a baseball game, at a lacrosse game, field hockey, football. Everybody was kind of supporting
Mhm.
everybody, which was really cool.
Yeah, I remember the one year their softball team was really good. Like they were
Yeah.
always like decent, but one year they were like off the charts.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and their women's basketball team was always pesky. Like
Yeah.
it was one of those teams that like you would circle on your calendar and be like, "Ugh, no matter what their record is, like they're gonna play hard and you're gonna have to battle.
Yeah.
One
Well,
of
and
those.
even like football, like Northwestern's not traditionally known for football, maybe, but I mean, we won the Big Ten West and made it to
Yeah.
Big Ten championship game twice while I was out there. So like it was pretty fun. Football was doing well. Like everything was pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, the other thing, quietly, the wrestling team was pretty good too. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys had some pretty solid guys. I mean, yourself, Sebastian, Yaya Thomas, DiAugustino, Chris Cannon, Lucas Davison, um, uh, David Ferrante, um,
You got
more.
some knowledge, man. That
They
was
were
good.
good. Well, they were
I don't know how
good.
you, that's awesome. You really, yeah, you followed
Yeah.
it.
Well, there was another one I can't think of, 49 or 74 maybe, that made the national tournament. That was pretty good. I think he went 0-2, but I mean, he was still pretty good. I mean,
We, like, it was really cool to be a part of that kind of growth.
yeah.
Because I mean, we were probably, I remember going to Big Tens my senior year of high school after I already committed to Northwestern. And I think we took like 13th out of 14 at the Big Ten tournament,
Yeah.
and then by the time I was leaving, um, we were ranked fourth in COVID when everything got shut down and canceled right before the national tournament was supposed to start. We took sixth my senior year and we qualified 10 for nationals, I think 2 years in a row, which, like, for Northwestern is a crazy, to get 10 guys to the national tournament is crazy. And I don't know if Northwestern's ever done that before then. Um, and it was kind of crazy too, because when I committed, it was Drew Periano was the coach. And then I come out of practice in the fall and I'm like, my phone's blowing up and he had got fired. And Storney's like calling me and he's like, "Hey, are you still in?" And, I'm like, I just made this life-changing decision at, 17 years old. Um, and there's a huge shakeup at the school. And I was like, you know what? Like, I didn't pick this for one reason. I went there and then Storney brought in Howe and Brewer. And I'm like, it was the best thing that could have happened. Um, but I went out there thinking, I'd have Jason Surtsis as a training partner for one more year. He ended up leaving. Bryce Brill, who was a 57 pounder, phenomenal wrestler. He hurt his neck and then like had to medically retire. So those were my top two training partners were gone instantly. And then just recruits that we had, like we could have been a trophy team that COVID year, but we had Nick Reenan committed and then he left. We had Cassiope, he left. Micic was there and then he left. We had a couple of those guys I just talked about that transferred or got hurt. Um, so like with that build, if we had one or two of those guys that something happened to them and they stayed, I mean, that's a lot of points. So it was a cool
Yeah.
time. It really was.
Yeah. I think the other one was Shane Oster. He was the other
Yeah,
guy I was thinking of.
Shane's the man.
Like,
Yeah,
he
Shane's
was
awesome.
tough. Like, yeah, gosh, man, the 2020, we don't want to talk about that too much because I think, seriously, I think that could have been just a special year for wrestling. It was going to be at US Bank. And like, it was going to be, there was just a feeling, I guess, that was going to be a pretty special tournament.
Yeah,
Um, and to qualify 10 guys, I mean, that is hard. Not many teams do that. I mean, every year
yeah,
there's only a few. There's only a
right.
few that say they can do that. And so for Northwestern, like you said, to do that a couple years in a row, I mean, it's just shows the talent you guys had. It had to be pretty special to be a part of that.
Well, and one of the coolest things that I thought about it too was, I mean, we definitely had some good recruits, but for the most part, I mean, if you looked at like what they were like ranked, not that rankings really mean much, but like out of high school, we shouldn't have been that good. And so the amount of development that went on, like, just speaks to the coaching level and like training partners. Like, it was just a really cool environment where everyone that went there like outkicked their coverage theoretically
Yeah.
on paper, so it was cool.
Yeah. Man, what was it like to get that call that, the head coach, got fired and now it's Storniolo calling you saying, "Hey, you still coming?" I know you said like you didn't go there for one reason, but I mean, did it at least give you a little bit of pause?
Yeah, I mean, so when it came down to it, I had like, I checked out a couple unofficial visits and then I had my five official visits and I was like, I'm either going to Stanford or Northwestern. And so that was my, I want to keep academics important, but I also am like really looking forward to wrestling too. Um, and I was actually training with some MMA guys at Muscle Farm down here. We'd go wrestle in the off season with some of their like fighters on their wrestling days. Um, and so I get out of practice and like I look at my phone and it was just like blowing up. And um, I had a Twitter message from Drew Periano that was like, "Hey man, I got fired, but like you should still go to Northwestern." And I'm like, "What is going on?" Um, and then I had like, a voicemail from Storney, and then Ray Blake had called me and was like, "Hey, is you still out on Stanford? Does this change anything?" And so, I mean, it was like a stressful time.
Yeah,
And recruiting's such a cool thing, but it's also a really stressful thing because you're looking at all these programs, you're trying to like train and compete and get ready for these preseason tournaments, and you're going away for like 2 3 days at a time. You're trying to keep up with school, um, and be mindful and make the right decisions. And I don't know that I'm like the most outgoing person either, so it's like a little intimidating going on like college visits when you're in high school and like hanging
yeah.
out with 22-year-old men when you're like still kind of a young child. So
Mhm.
it was interesting. And then, slept on a couple of days, and I finally was like, okay, I'm past this. I figured everything out. Like I'm committed to Northwestern. Sweet, I can just focus on my senior year. And then like a month later, all this blows up. So it was funny, but it worked out. It was sweet.
Yeah. Did it help having your dad there, who played college sports and went through the recruiting process? Was that kind of like a safety net for you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, for sure. My parents were super supportive. That takes, a bunch of pressure in a
Yeah.
lot of ways that I don't think I realized. Just mentally, there was never a question growing up on anything. Like if I wanted to do something sports related, they're like, yeah. But I think also my parents were pretty big on, you know, being your own human and like making adult decisions. And so part of that was stressful too, because I was almost looking for my parents to, like tell me what to do. And they're like, you do what you feel is right. Like I'll help you talk through stuff and pros and cons, but like this is your decision. Um, and that's like a really cool and awesome thing. And I think it was a great like lesson in being, being an adult. Um,
Yeah.
and so they helped me think through it, but they weren't gonna like tell me where they thought I should go. I'm sure they
Mhm.
would have told me if they thought I was really messing something up. Um,
Mhm.
but they're like, well, why don't you like lay out the facts, what you want to look for in a school and what speaks to you on this, and then make your decision and we'll support you wherever you go.
Yeah.
So that was kind of they're pretty cool like that. They're like pretty hands off, but at the same
Mhm.
time, like they were ready to catch you if you fall.
Yeah, they had the guardrails up, to keep you kind of on track, but they weren't going to let you drown, whatever, uh,
Yeah.
you know, thing you want to use. But the other guy I wanted to give a shout out to that was on one of those Northwestern teams was Johnny Sebastian.
Yeah,
He was
Johnny's the
he was
man.
tough too. So like
Yeah.
I just listed off a bunch of guys on those Northwestern teams that like I mean, at one point, Northwestern got 13th, like you said, and all of a sudden, like all these guys come in, use your phrase, outkick their coverage, and Northwestern was like, "Oof, we got to battle these guys."
Yeah.
When did you start to really kind of maybe I don't know if you hockey sticked or like you really started to blow up on the wrestling scene and start to get like, oh, I'm actually like I'm pretty good at this sport? Was there like a moment or two that really kind of gave you that confidence that you were like good?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of a slow build. Like you start
Yeah.
winning stuff. I actually talked to Mike McMullen when he coached us, and he's an awesome human. Actually, if you get a chance, like you should talk to him. He's actually doing
Yeah.
shout out Mike McMullen. He's doing I think the Big Ten broadcasting I think tonight for some duels. So he's
All
like
right.
yeah, he's sticking around wrestling. He's doing awesome stuff professionally,
Yeah.
and he's
I
able to
remember
kind of do
I
some
liked
wrestling
him.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, super, super smart dude, super awesome guy. But when he first came to Northwestern, he came and one of the coolest things was like, hey guys, just want to get to know you guys. Like, would love to set up coffee chats. I'll be at this coffee shop in Evanston. Like, here's a sign up link. I'll be there all day, like block 30 to an hour and let's like chat.
Hmm.
And I'd never had a coach do that. I thought it was a really cool idea and went and talked to him and just kind of talked about life, talked about wrestling. And, I asked him, I was like, when did you like, figure out you were good at wrestling? And kind of same question you just asked. And I think his answer made a lot of sense and is probably the same way I think about it is I don't think there's like this one big moment where you like flip a switch.
Hmm.
But there's like little moments where you perform a little better than maybe you were expected to. And then
Hmm.
that gives you confidence to like look back at your your trajectory and be like, wow, okay, I did this, then I can do this. And then I did this and
Yeah.
I can do this. And I think there was, a track like that when I was younger, but when I got to college, it was like I was a true freshman. I got to wrestle Midlands and then I took third at Midlands. And so that was like, okay, I deserve to be here. Like this was a big tournament. I shouldn't have like placed here. I took third at Midlands. And then, I finished well, won a couple open tournaments my redshirt freshman year. And then I won the US Open for juniors and I made a junior world team. And then I took second at junior worlds. And then, and so like those like stacking little things, you start to like believe in yourself. And so I don't know that it was like one big moment, but it was, as you do well, it's like motivating and it kind of puts a chip on your shoulder, like I can do this. You know?
Mhm. Yeah. When you first got to college, did you have a learning curve
Yeah.
a little bit where you just kind of got beat on for the first while, or did you sort of hold your own? I always like to hear
Yeah.
the stories, because a lot of good kids are like, I didn't get a takedown for 2 months, and I'm like, geez.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
Yeah, I'd say mixed. I went out in the summer my senior year while I was training for Fargo,
Okay.
for like 3-ish weeks probably. Um, and that moment, I think I was pretty like, whoa, this is different. And that's like, I mean, I've never felt as silly wrestling as I did when I wrestled Bryce Brill for the first time.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and I was wrestling 145 at Fargo then, and he was, a full size 57 pounder and a little heavier, but it wasn't even like the weight. It was like I didn't feel like I could touch him before he was on my legs and taking me down. Um, and so I think that whole experience for those couple weeks, every time I'd wrestle him, I was like, whoa, this is like a different level. Um, but then once I got into the room for my freshman year, I felt pretty good. There's definitely a little bit of a learning curve. I think the physicality and just the sheer amount of like output you have to have wrestling with guys, like you just feel guys, they're so much stronger, so much more physically mature, and just can go for a lot longer. But I think within a couple weeks, picked that up. It wasn't like I was going into practice and not getting takedowns, you know. And maybe part of that was like, Bryce got hurt. There was other things going on with other guys. But I felt fairly confident by the time season started, where I was like, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me take you back real quick to your high school life. Um, You got third at state as a freshman. I just want to know, like, what were your expectations going into high school? I mean, were you like four-time state champ? Like you said, you had some success in middle school and you won middle school state, so like did that automatically just put like I'm looking to be a four-time state champ, all the things, undefeated, all.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I thought that early on. I think early on it was like I need to place my freshman year.
Yeah.
Um, I think third place, I remember being excited about that. Like that was I won a couple matches that I probably shouldn't have. Maybe not probably shouldn't have, but I didn't know if I would win them. Um,
Hmm.
and so I think third was probably the best I was doing that year. I remember there was a kid that was, I think he was on track to be a four-timer that was pretty good. And I lost to him in like the quarters, like 4-2.
Hmm.
Uh, so, and then I had a kid that I had lost to earlier in the year and I beat him on the backside. And then I had an overtime win to take third. So I remember going like after that, I was like, okay, like I can win this next year. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that year, because there was that like, guy that's on this track to four-time, I'm a freshman. I didn't feel like I was the state champ that year.
Hmm.
And third felt like I did better than I was supposed to, as bad as that sounds.
Yeah, no, hey, I love the honesty there. Because Um, were you undersized? That was what the thing I was wondering. Like, because you said you were like 99 pounds.
Yeah, that was freshman football. I remember weighing in at 99 pounds. I remember going that summer, like my dad was like giving me he's like, here, we got some it was probably crap, but it was like a mass gainer shake. It was basically just like all carbs and a little bit of protein and probably 800 calories. I was drinking like two of those a day and eating, three or four meals trying to put on some weight. Um, and I got right to I was like 108 at night. I'd go wake up in the morning, go to the bathroom, I'd make 106. So I was, I wasn't underweight, but I wasn't cutting any weight. And I felt good there. So yeah, I'd say right at the weight class. I probably could have been a couple pounds heavier, but I made it. I wasn't the 90 pounds that I was the year before.
Yeah. And then so then the next year you rip off and you won it. I mean, that was probably the expectation, huh?
Yeah, I had a good summer. I wrestled at Fargo. I got a little bigger. I was like I wrestled 113. I was probably
Yeah.
weighing 116. I was cutting a pound or two, and um, just maturing in my wrestling and continuing
Yeah.
to work all summer. So I felt good. Yeah, it was an awesome year. It was a really fun
Yeah.
year. I was like, I didn't really realize I was undefeated until I got to state. Then I was like, oh, I might actually do this thing. And
Yeah.
so it was cool.
Yeah. Um, but of course in wrestling, it's and in life, it's always a roller coaster. And when you're
For
at the top,
sure.
there's most likely a peak, or a valley coming, and that junior year
Yeah.
is when that valley kind of hit. What was that like to come back and finish as a runner up? Because at that point, it's almost like when you win one, you expect to win,
Yeah,
more, and
for sure.
then you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great year, honestly. I learned so
Really?
much. I mean, in
Yeah.
the year, like man, I like if we had this conversation right after I lost in the state finals, like this would have been a tough conversation. But looking back, I think, you can kind of connect the dots, and that probably taught me so much stuff and gave me so much more experience for college that, really carried me throughout my career. So I think it was awesome and necessary. Like it was a necessary part of my story, and it was a cool like comeback story for me. Um,
Yeah.
I was doing well, like expected to win it. There was a kid that I'd wrestled. I'd beaten him quite a few times just growing up. He grew up in Colorado, and then even that year I'd beaten him. Um, and I get to the state finals. Nobody had really touched me all year, and so I don't know if I was, you know, I don't know. You've never had that experience that year of like having to come from behind or having never not being in control of the match. And I get to the third period. I'm up by, I don't know, a couple points in a good spot, and we're on our feet. And he took me down. It was a sweet shot. And like kudos to him. And what should have happened, like in my brain now, is like, I'm like, cool, stand up. And then I go back to my offense, but I got a little anxious, and I think that was a great lesson to learn. And I kind of shut off my offense. And so then next thing you know, we're like wrestling and, the crowd's getting into it. I'm about to get upset, returning state champ. Pepsi Center, it's a sweet arena for high school. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like 20,000 people. I don't know if it's true still, but read somewhere it's like one of the biggest sporting events for high school in the country. Um, and so I'm just wrestling, continuing to go through and backing up, kind of shutting off my offense. So I'm reacting to stuff. Um, and he takes me down again. And I'm like, okay, now it's tied. I get an escape. Or no, I was up by one. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I get an escape. I'm up by two. He just needs a takedown to take it in overtime. There's like 20 seconds left. And at this point, I'm like, you know, it is like milliseconds ticking off, feels like an hour.
Hmm.
And just got really anxious and kind of like honestly gassed myself with that. Just exhausted emotionally and just was not doing any of the right things. And then takes me down again. We go in overtime. And then, crowd's on his side. I'm still not feeling good. And in overtime, I take a bad shot and he goes behind. And so, like, I lost that match. It was the end of my world at that point. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I realized, like, oh, okay, there's like, you got to be able to stay calm when stuff gets in. You're not in control of matches all the time. Crazy stuff's going to happen. Um, and I learned a great lesson, and that carried me, throughout the rest of my career. And the cool thing was the first tournament the next year I got to wrestle him, and I majored him. Like
Yeah.
I like he was a great wrestler, and he ended up being a four-timer, phenomenal wrestler. But I shouldn't have lost that match, and I let the crowd get into my head, and he took some great shots and did an awesome job, and so I learned a lot, and it was a great opportunity for me to kind of understand. I think it was the first time I was like, okay, the mental side of wrestling is really important.
When did you realize that, because like it's easy now to in retrospect think of all that, and that was very well said, but as like a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, Do you remember maybe not exactly a pinpoint moment, but when that started to become like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that was part of it. And then I was kind of getting better and getting better. And then I really took it seriously, honestly, my last year. Um,
Really? Yeah.
just talking with coaches and just understanding the margin of error in wrestling, like on those All-American rounds between 1 and 8, it's very thin. Like there's some separation in some weight classes, but some weight classes are so deep. I mean, and it might be the top, 12 guys that are really tough. Um, and you got to be able to just be a machine when there's a lot of pressure. And I think I always looked at that as like kind of frou-frou and like I don't need to go talk to a sports psych. And we had a lot of resources and at Northwestern, and I still
Mhm.
never did it. But I started reading books about it. I talked to my coaches about it. Um, and I think just like understanding when you're anxious and then how to like throw that thought out and just like focus on the task was something that I had to like kind of figure out on my own. Um, and once I took that seriously, I realized it. And I realized it maybe the best my second to last year. COVID happened. I was undefeated. Um, they cancel nationals. I'm the number one seed going in the tournament. It's 2020. They cancel nationals a week before. We go home for 8 months and then we come back to wrestle. And it's supposed to be a shortened season. Um, and I got COVID and they were making us tests. I got myocarditis. So they were like, you're not allowed to wrestle for 6 months. And so I didn't, uh, I was like, well, that's not going to work. And luckily our, our team doctor like worked with me and like we had like a plan where every week I was, 5% higher heart rate, 5% higher, 5%. And then I was wearing like a monitor where it was monitoring my heart rate 24/7. And it got to a point where um, right before I was supposed to get cleared, there was like a weird reading. And they're like, we can't clear you now. We need to put a loop recorder. So they put like a small, like metal chip, like right in my chest to like monitor it because they couldn't monitor it while I was working out because it was like sticky electrodes. Um, and so I put that in. I was in for like 10
When you
days.
when you say put that in, like, was it inserted? Like,
Yeah, they like cut me open and like
yeah.
stuck it in and then stitched it up. And I'm wrestling while this thing's like bleeding everywhere. My chest is all swollen. Um, I'm kind of skipping over this, like, but it was it was wild. It was a
Yeah.
crazy time. And our medical team did an awesome job, but it was kind of a dark time, like we were testing, not allowed to do stuff. It was COVID, it was a shortened season. I kept getting told like you can wrestle next week, and then they'd pull me back, and then you could wrestle. I had to do these cardio buildups where I do a running. Well, they're like testing, they do an ultrasound right after you finish running to see how your heart's pumping and make sure nothing's wrong. Finally, they cut it out. They clear me. I cut weight and I'm able to wrestle a Wisconsin duel. I'm able to wrestle Minnesota duel, Big Tens, and then wrestle at nationals. I get to the semis. I like didn't have my timing. I wrestled two duels, Big Tens, nationals.
Yeah.
And I was undefeated. I was doing well. But I remember like just starting to feel good. And then it's second period in the semifinals. I stand up, I get cut back and pinned. And I'm like, I'm done with wrestling right now. Like that was such a crazy year. And I needed like probably a couple weeks off. Like I just needed to clear my head. I, tweaked my shoulder at Big Tens. I tweaked my knee at nationals. Like I just dealt with this like heart thing. And so I was just kind of fed up with it all. I was, being basically pulled back and forth with wrestling. And so um, I finally like kind of got back into the room after I like my shoulder and knee kind of healed a little bit. And I remember getting taken down by a couple people that I'm like have never touched my legs in practice. And I'm like, what's going on? And that was when I was kind of thinking about I'm just gonna go be an RTC athlete, like I'm done with college wrestling. Um, and the second, it probably took me a couple more weeks. The second I decided like, oh, I'm gonna go come back for my last year and like compete, um, I like flipped a switch in my head, and then I was back to wrestling the way I knew I could wrestle. And that was a long-winded way to say like that's when I realized this is super mental. I was way better when I decided I wanted to be, than when I was kind of playing, woe is me, poor me. I got a little bit of adversity going on.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
And so I think that's when I started really taking it seriously that summer going into my last year.
Yeah, there's a little bit to unpack there. I'm impressed. Well, I'm impressed that with all that was going on right there, and you say, um, I got pinned by Delvecchia in the semis, and it's the like I'm done. You still came back and won your next two matches to finish third. I mean that's impressive. You know?
I appreciate it. I don't know that that was like I know I get what you're saying and I appreciate it, but I think part of it too is like I'm telling myself, you know, don't be the guy that loses and then slides. Like you
Mhm.
better go out there and win now because you just laid a huge goose egg. Um, and I took a couple seconds. I'm like, I don't know what just happened. Like everything happened so fast. I'm
Yeah.
like in the corner taking a sec. My guy Hal comes up to me and is just like he didn't even know what to say. And Hal is has the best words of wisdom most of the time. Um, and he just looked at me. He's like, "I'm sorry, man." And I was like. Yeah, that was tough. And so I went back and I cut weight and I was like, you can't be a wuss. You better make weight tomorrow and figure it out. And you can deal with these emotions after the tournament's done. So I don't know. I just think when you have guys that pour into you like that, coaches, teammates, the amount of sacrifices you made, you're like, I got to go out there and give it my best shot. Stuff happens. You're gonna get knocked. Um, Something really cool Joe Rouse said to me actually after. He's like, "Hey man, this is part of your story, and the best stories, have a comeback story. There's always like a low point." And he's like, "This is gonna be a really cool story one day." And he was 100% right. Like it came back the next year, and I had to take the long route. It took me every match of my career to win a national title, and that was, I'm a slow learner, I guess.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. You did a great job, it sounds like, of compartmentalizing, like I have these emotions. I'm gonna have to deal with them, like the shock and awe and of losing and in the semis like that, but I can't deal with them right now. Like I have to put that aside and I'll deal with them later. And that seems like it sounds like what you kind of did. You showed up for your team, you got third, and then you went back and dealt with those emotions of, defeat.
Yeah, I think wrestling teaches you that,
Yeah.
and I think that I don't know that I'm very good like expressing emotions naturally anyways. Like I vows on my wedding day, I was like, I really don't want to do this. My wife's like, no, we got to do this. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
So I think most men are kind of that way. I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but like like your men's brain is more like waffles where you have like, little compartments for everything and like this stays in this box, this stays in this box, where females are more like spaghetti where everything's kind of connected. Um,
Huh. Interesting.
so I don't know. I don't know who, yeah, maybe look fact check me on that. But I think that wrestling is a really good teacher of, you're gonna get hit with a lot of different things. There's a lot of high highs, a lot of low lows. And the best wrestlers, I think, keep you like pretty even keel, and are really good at getting back to that baseline. Like, I don't want to be knee jerk reacting, making emotional
Yeah.
decisions because that's where you make mistakes. And I think some sports, like especially sports movies, like they try to play this like hoorah rah, get up for
Yeah.
the team. And there's a certain like truth to that, but you gotta have a clear head in those big moments. And if you're like so excited and amped up that you go to club somebody really hard that you like open up your leg and you get taken down, it's not a good way to do it either.
Hmm.
So I found I was at my best when I was calm and like calculated. And so I had to figure out how to stay in that state when everything around me was like, you're the eye of the tornado and you're just trying to be calm in the middle.
Hmm. Hmm. How how important or beneficial, whatever word you want to use, was it to have your wife, but then girlfriend as an athlete, a college athlete too? Like, were you guys dating in college, and did she kind of help you through some of these tough times being a college athlete herself,
Yeah.
understanding kind of what was going on to an
Yeah,
extent?
for sure. I think um yeah, we dated probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years in college, and um, I was a much better athlete when I was with her than when I wasn't, and I think uh, she really understood the sacrifices and commitments, like I got to go to bed early because I got an early practice or an early lift, or, this weekend, like would love to do something, but I got to get this workout in first. And she got that because she had to do that for her sport. And at the same time, it was such a good, I don't think we talk enough about the like being happy outside of the sport because it's all
Yeah.
encompassing and it's really easy to like be really sucked into this world of wrestling where if you're doing well, life's good, and when you're not, life's not good. And putting your identity in a sport like that is like super dangerous and wrong, but it just happens. Like it's really
Yeah.
hard not to. And so she was like, I mean this in the best way possible, but like a great distraction from like the pressures of sports. I'd
Hmm.
go
Hmm.
home and like we'd make dinner and just have a great night. And I didn't think once about, the match I lost or the single leg or, whatever. And she didn't really understand wrestling when I first met her. She'd never been to a wrestling match. And when I lost that match at Nationals, that was the first match she saw me lose in like 2 years, and she was like, I didn't know how to talk to you. I was like, I'm a normal human. I'd rather you just like talk to me and not act like I just like, let the world down. And
Yeah.
and she did a great job. But it was funny. So I think that's a huge part of it. And something with the transfer portal now, like if you have a good community, good network, good outside life outside of wrestling, and you transfer to another school, sometimes you don't get that, relief outside of the grueling practices and the schedule and the travel and competitions and school and so I think it's important to have your people, your village around you too, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. What year did you guys start dating? Do you remember?
Yeah,
I just want to
20
see something. I just want to see something real quick.
I think 2019. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's just the first time you placed at nationals. So like, I mean, to your point, it seems like, the first year in 2018 you didn't, and you guys weren't together, and now all of a sudden you start dating and you
That's a good point.
you,
Yep.
you become a
She'll
three-time
love
All-American.
that stat.
Yeah. Well, speaking of just sort of like removing your identity from the sport, what did you do to decompress from the sport, to take the pressure off, take your mind off it? Because like I ask a lot of my guests that because I think what you just said is very important,
Yeah.
to have a mental break from your sport, whatever it is, or just life in general, to do something that brings you enjoyment. So like, what was that for you?
Yeah. That's a great question. One, I think the biggest thing is taking your identity out of the sport was like I'm Christian, and I think having like strong faith is
Yeah.
it's easy to be like, hey, if you beat me as a wrestler, like cool. Like I'm still who God says I am. Where if you're like, you beat me as a wrestler, you beat me as a person, that's a tough spot to be in. It's a lot of pressure.
Mm.
Um, and it's easy to say that. It's hard to like actually believe that. But
Yeah.
we had a good, like, great, phenomenal athletes in action community. We had a team Bible study. Parker Sedekis, who ran our team Bible study, he was a wrestler at NIU, so he really understood it, and he wasn't like the typical like cheesy Bible study guy. And so
Mm.
it was awesome having him and somebody that really related to everything. And he like officiated my wedding. He's a great friend of mine
Oh,
now, like
nice.
huge mentor. Like it was awesome. So that was really cool. Having that kind of faith support was awesome. Um, like I said, like I think my wife and I, especially during COVID, there wasn't much you could do, but we had a great time like cooking different recipes or
Mhm.
going and finding cool outdoor areas because you couldn't really go do things indoors. Um, Chicago has some pretty sweet food scenes. There's some awesome concerts always. There's the Michigan Ocean's right there, so it's always like a fun time to go out to the lake and hang out.
Mhm.
Being around friends. I think just getting away from wrestling for a little bit and just doing like normal stuff and not, you can't be like a normal college student if you're trying to be an elite athlete. Like you're
For
not
sure.
going out and, partying and doing crazy stuff. But I think there needs to be some, yeah, some events where you go and hang out with friends and go have some fun.
Yeah, you need to have some level of normalcy. Obviously, like you're saying, like to an extent, to be the most normal as you can, I guess,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like.
Right.
What's it like being a college student? I kind of forgot. Um, what's it like being a college student in Chicago? I mean,
Yeah.
normally when you look at across, like even just think of the Big Ten landscape, they're mostly college towns. Iowa City, Madison, I guess is a little bigger, but like, Happy Valley,
Yeah.
they're like the college is the town. Not in
Yeah.
Evanston. Like
Yeah.
you're in like Chicago. What's it
Yeah.
like being in Chicago for college? I'm
Yeah, it
curious.
was cool. It's like you said, Evanston's a small town. It's a cool, like they got everything you need, but it's not really a college town. There's like I mean, there's like one, maybe two bars that like people would go to, or there's a couple restaurants and stuff, and it's a really cool area. But like, especially in off season, like if you're gonna go out at night, you're going down to Chicago, and it's 25-minute Uber or whatever. Um, I thought it was really cool. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot less distractions. Like honestly, I'm not really
Wow,
into that
really?
whole stuff. Yeah, I mean. I wasn't I wasn't into that. Like I'd much rather like hang out with some buddies than go to bars and I just it wasn't appealing to me and I think that
Mhm.
was that probably helped me. I wasn't, out till 4 a.m. every weekend and um but it also wasn't like a big sacrifice for me. I just wasn't into it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like we never like went out and did stuff, but it wasn't like I don't know, it wasn't a big distraction for me. But I could
Yeah.
see where like you go to like an ASU where there's like pool parties and like craziness and like fun things going on all the time. Northwestern definitely had like you could find your stuff if you were into that. Um, but it was kind of nice like in the winter when you're cutting weight and it's cold outside and you're like I'm not missing much sitting in here cutting weight. Like this is
Hmm.
fine, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think that made it a little bit easier where wrestling season was like, I'm not going to be going, missing this beach day or missing
Yeah.
this pool party. Like, it's like, cool, everybody's inside studying, trying to stay warm. Like, I can get through this?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? You said you took a few like after that senior year when you got sixth, or sorry, when you got third, you took a couple weeks before you decided to come back. Was there even a thought to come back? Because like you didn't have to, right? Like that was your COVID year, so you would have had to re-enroll in school and take more classes and another year of competition. Like that's a big like a big decision to make to come back and do all that again when you could have easily just walked away.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I was taking visits to RTCs. Like, I went out to Michigan. I went out to, I think Princeton. I went out to like two or three other schools, and I was looking into RTCs. Like, I was like, I'm gonna look at everything. I even talked to Storney. I was like, maybe I'll just be an RTC athlete,
Yeah.
and stick around Northwestern. And then, I had a really good mentor of mine, that he just kind of would talk through it with me too. And he was very good at, doing that whole like mentor, let you get to it, but like kind of guide you there. Like he never told me what he thought, um, and like the best, whatever. But he also looking back, I'm like, once it was done and we're a year past it, he's like, yeah, it was the right decision, but you had to come to it on your own.
Yeah.
And I think when it really came down to it, I was like, I love wrestling. This is such a cool opportunity. Honestly, wrestling in America, the peak of it is Division I wrestling. Like freestyle is cool, but at the same time, you could do that as long as you want after. And it's just, I mean, you go to a world team trials, it's not nearly the same environment as a Big Ten tournament or NCAA tournament. Like it's just not. Um, so I was like, this is a really cool opportunity. People would kill for this. Why am I feeling sorry for myself? It was really only a 4-month commitment, 5-month commitment for me. I just finished a master's program, and so I was able to do a grad certificate where it was fully remote. It was a couple of classes, and
Oh,
I could be,
nice.
yeah, it was sweet, and I could be done the literally the Friday of nationals was the end of the quarter because we're on quarters. And so literally after nationals, I'm done with school, done with wrestling. Like I'm like, it's a 4-month commitment. And I just wasn't happy with how the year went. It was
Hmm.
like kind of like this amazing college experience that like ended on a dud with like COVID, the world shutting down.
Yeah.
I lost in the semifinals when I thought I was going to win a national title. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out on my terms. And so I was super glad I did. Regardless of how well the year finished for me wrestling wise, it was like the most fun I'd had just hanging out with friends, soaking in the last year, hanging out with, my wife, and just it was really fun. It was an amazing year, and like my heart was full going into nationals, and I think that made it a lot easier to like just compete and not really care what happened.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. It sounds like there was a lot less pressure. Even like you would think there would be more pressure because it's your final year and all that, but like
Yeah.
it seems like it was the opposite, where there was no, like you felt no pressure. Like whatever, I'm just gonna go let it fly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it got to that point where I was like, I mean, I can do this stressed or I could just do this. And and for a long time, like I thought about it and I was like not really happy with my career for a while. Um, and I'm like, what am I like, so sorry about? I lost one match in 3 years. And but everyone puts it on like the pedestal of nationals. Um, and I mean, it's right or wrong. That's how it is with the sport. And so I think it was like, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of coaches, teammates, parents, spouses, friends, luck that goes into, being able to perform on the day that you need to perform. And so, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go out there, have fun, do my best, and whatever happens, happens.
And what happened was you won a national title.
Yeah, and maybe I wouldn't have like, the perspective I have on the sport now, I think is good, and maybe it wouldn't be as good if I didn't end up winning. But I think that also kind of helped me transition into coaching and kind of let go of uh, senior level stuff because I was like, you know what, I've slayed my demons in wrestling. I'm happy with this, and I'm ready for a new adventure.
Yeah. And and are you able to like look back and be proud and of what you accomplished and your two high school state titles, your national championship, you silver junior worlds. I mean, you accomplished a lot and I know there's probably some um some fruit still that could have been labored
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Like, you know, on the opposite side, you did accomplish a lot and then, did you feel like you left the sport and left yourself in a better spot than when you found it, basically?
Yeah, it's a cool question. Yeah, I'm not always great at like stopping and smelling the roses, and I'm trying to be better at that because I think it's important, like celebrating little wins in life. Um, I think that's really important, and I am, I'm proud of that stuff. And I look back and I'm like, that was really cool. Um, and now I see it as, this sport has touched every aspect of my life. It's really cool to be able to go, coach kids now. And like, I remember those feelings. I remember what that was like. And it's exciting to be a small part of some of these kids' journeys. And my perspective on the sport has shifted a little bit where it's more like, I'm really interested in, obviously I want our wrestlers to win, tournaments and do well, but more so like be good humans, be good leaders, learn the skills that the sport teaches you. Because I think there's very few sports that teach the lessons that wrestling teaches. It's just such a grueling and unique type of sport. And so, like, that's what I'm interested in now. I don't think I could get away with from wrestling if I tried. I think there'll be ebbs and flows, but it'll
Yeah.
always be in my life in some capacity.
Yeah. What capacity is that right now?
Right now, I'm coaching. So I realized how rewarding coaching was and how much I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, coaching at Stanford for a couple of years. And so now I'm coaching at Mile High Wrestling Club where we have,
Nice.
we have 6-year-olds, well, 4-year-olds even up to, high schoolers. So like we have our youth kids, we have our high school kids, and it's really cool, watching our high school kids, go to college, make these commitments, and just watching them grow has been awesome. And then the little ones, I'm watching, 4-year-olds that are falling in love with the sport or they have a tough day and you're talking to them and they come back the next practice ready to go. It's really cool. We'll have little guys that are crying, while they're wrestling hard and then they get done with practice and 5 minutes later they're like excited and it's just like I don't know. It's a cool time. It's really fun and it's amazing to see, you know, these kids getting joy out of the sport that I found a lot of joy into.
Yeah. And you're showing them and teaching them the sport that touched you and that you love so much and kind of like gifting that back to them, like
Yeah.
So, what is in store for you in the future? Like, what are you doing right now, career wise? You know, because it sounds
Yeah.
like you're like kind of figuring that out or trying to a little bit.
I'm doing corporate finance, and
Okay.
so I'm enjoying that. It's been interesting, with my econ background, really enjoying that. And then, yeah, we're I also got a podcast slash like fitness company that we've been
Perfect.
going through, for probably about 2 years now. So it's been fun, kind of a passion project of mine, and then coaching wrestling and um, yeah, so just trying to continue to learn and figure out what is my next big goal. I think the weirdest thing going from like high level college athletics to the real world is there's like a very tangible goal. And life is so simple in college where you're like, okay, I'm trying to win this tournament at the end of the year. My inputs are, more time wrestling, more time conditioning, more time sleeping, better nutrition. Like it's very easy, or it's very simple. Not super easy, but there's like a
Right.
framework, input, output. There you go. I think in the real world, it's a lot less tangible. The milestones are a lot less, they're not clear,
Right.
and so like deciding what that is, what that means. And um, I also think it's so easy to get so caught up in, if you ask me in college, like wrestling was my world, and now I'm like, it's an awesome sport, but there's a lot more to life.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting perspective change, and I think I don't know. Do you still feel this way? Like I feel like when November comes around, I have like a weird like sigh of relief. I'm like, I don't have this 800-pound gorilla. Like we're about to start wrestling, and I got somebody trying to take my head off every week.
Yeah, it kind of comes around when like I after practice or whatever, like with the guys, I like I'll go back to the my apartment, um, and I won't have to worry about like what I have to eat. Like I can eat whatever I want, and not have to worry about it. I try to keep it fairly reasonable,
Yeah.
but I'm not worried about counting calories or anything like that, or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
different, yeah.
Yeah. So what real quick, you said you have a podcast and fitness. What is that? Let's give a little plug to that so
Yeah,
people
thank
watching
you.
and listening can find it.
Yeah, it's
Support.
called Iron Summit. Myself and Max Wessel, who was a All-American for Lehigh in 2016. We started this. We were just talking. Like Max is a good buddy of mine. He grew up in Boulder. He's a couple years older than me, but I met him at some wrestling practices and stuff. He'd come back from college, and I was, sophomore, junior in high school, and I'm like, that's the biggest dude I've ever seen in my life. Like Max is just a huge human. And so we were like just talking, and he uh he owns a gym up in Vail, and I'm like, why don't you do like, some kind of media or something? He's like, let's do it together. And I was like, I sweet, like I'm excited about this too. And so we just kind of like jokingly were like, oh yeah, we'll start a podcast. And we've been doing it for a little over 2 years now. We have like strength training plans on there. We got, some like one-on-one clients and stuff like that. But really it's just like our passion project, talking about health and fitness, having interesting conversations with people. And yeah, it's been really cool. We've had a lot of growth over the last couple of years and met a lot of really cool people, got to work out with a lot of cool people, hear really cool stories. I think the network effects of podcasts are, I'm sure you're feeling this way too. It's just like it's super interesting to talk to interesting people, and
Yeah.
you don't realize how cool everybody's got a unique story, and how cool it is to kind of extract that from somebody and get to know people.
Yeah. And you never know, you know, what someone will say that clicks with somebody, like
Yeah,
I could say the same thing to somebody 100 times, but the way you say it could just resonate with them better. And so
yeah,
I've had people of all over the spectrum from I was a state qualifier in high school and that was it to national champ, Olympic champ, like so all over the spectrum. And I just like that variety of everyone's story is just a little different and how they got to where they got to and something clicks for them that might click for, like I said, somebody who's listening. So
yeah, yeah. Can I ask you what's your goal with this podcast? What made you start it? And yeah, what can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah. So um a few years ago, gosh, man, it might be like 7 years ago. Wow. Oh my gosh. Time flies, man.
Yeah, it does.
I was listening to this. I found this podcast. I don't know how, but it's called Wrestling Changed My Life. with
Yeah. Okay.
Ryan
Yeah.
Werner. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I found that and I just started listening to it and I really liked his, the guests he was bringing on. I mean this in a nice way, Ryan. Ryan, if he's listening, but it sort of was a little bit redundant in like when you have high level athletes, they all similar have a similar path and a similar kind of story
Yeah.
because they're all high level and they all are getting to the same goal. So I wanted to tweak it to have people of all ends of the spectrum and see how
Yeah.
wrestling impacted them because everyone, like you said, has a different story.
Yeah.
And, the guy who, was an All-American, is satisfied with like John Ernesty. I had him on. If you know who he is, he's from Missouri. He was an All-American and he is so freaking proud and what he accomplished and how he got there, you know. And so like stories, this is a long-winded way of just saying everyone has a story in this sport, and I just want to be able to share it any way I can. Sounds a little cheesy, but that's kind of the goal.
It's cool. I love it, man.
You
No,
know?
it's that's not cheesy. That's really cool. I totally get that.
Yeah. So I've had all sorts of guests on. I'll I'm gonna have on Brett Metcalf's wife. I
Awesome.
think
Cool.
that's pretty interesting to see the perspective of I've had Brock Hardy's wife on, if you know
Yeah.
Brock Hardy.
Yeah.
Um, because they support and they have a completely different outlook on the sport.
Right.
I'm sure your wife understands like the way
Yeah.
she sees the sport and supports is completely different than actually being involved in the sport. So, yeah, that's what I got.
That's cool. I love it, man. No, I think it's so cool. And
So,
it's I don't know. It's really cool. I feel like people used to, they get done with a, I don't know, 60-year career and they'd write a book and that was kind of their like, give back to the industry they were in. And I think wrestling, it's like coaching, podcasting, putting out, some kind of giving back is really cool. And um, they're interesting stories. So I think it's really cool what you're doing and I'll definitely be tuning in.
yeah, thanks. And the other thing I like to do is I like to humanize
Yeah.
the athlete. We in a good way, we look at you guys as like superheroes, like you guys can do no wrong and so to kind of peel back the onion a little bit and showcase how you got there and how it was a fight, you know, all the time. Like this didn't just happen. Ryan Deakin didn't just wake up and win a national title. He went through a lot of adversity and to see how you battled the adversity to get to where you were hopefully motivates people. It motivates me. That's what keeps me doing this is I hear these stories. I'm like, man, he had it worse than I did. I can keep going if he can. So that's kind of the hope I have too, is people listen and go, wow, my life isn't so bad, or hey, he pushed through, I can push through, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I love that. That's like it's a big thing I like to talk about at wrestling camps for sure. Is like consistency kills, man. If you can just stack those days, like compound it, good things happen. Because everybody that's doing cool things, they're like, they put their pants on the same way as you do. They're normal humans typically. There's some genetic anomalies, but mass
Hmm.
majority of people that are crushing it at whatever they do, they just like really hard workers. And there's some
Yeah.
luck in there, but like they just put one foot in front of the other and they stack those days.
Yeah. And they're always going to run into something where they don't want to do it. Like even the best, and I'm sure you can attest to this. But correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, as much as you loved wrestling and as much as you wanted to do it, there were probably still some days where, man, I don't really feel like going to practice today.
For
I don't
sure.
want to, but you still did it, like you
Yeah.
still did it.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, for
just
sure.
life. That's if you want to be great at something, no matter how much you love it, there are going to be days where you still don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, real quick on that note, how did you just continue to do that? The mundane practice and gosh, I'm not feeling I'm a little sick, a little sore throat. I have class. I think I should probably hang out with my girlfriend. Like all of that, and you still went to practice. Like, how did you, balance all of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think just it becomes a habit, the more you do it. And I
True.
think
Yeah.
there's just kind of like you're like, this is what I need to get done. I just got to be a professional no matter what happens. Like you show up and you do the work. And um, I also think there's like a certain level of like wrestling is one of those sports where I mean, you're going to get embarrassed out there. If you're not prepared, like that guy's going to take your head off. And so I think there's a certain level of like anxiety of, I don't want to go be embarrassed. I'm going to go embarrass him. So I can't take this day off. There's always somebody that's chasing you or you're chasing somebody. So you better hit the ground running. And I think that was part of it too, is like I don't like losing. Like I hate to lose. I'm competitive and there's a lot of people investing in me as well. Like this isn't just for me. My family supported me this whole time. My wife was there, my siblings, my friends, my coaches pour everything into me. Like there's a lot of people counting on me too. Like this is bigger than me. I got to go out there and um, go do what I'm supposed to do. Like how easy of a job is it when you're in college? Like your job is to show up, like get it done, show up. Like
Mhm.
it's just
Yeah.
yeah, it's at the basic fundamental. I understand it's a tough sport. There's a lot of life things pulling you different directions, but like I came here to wrestle. I said I was going to wrestle for them. Like I'm going to go do my best for this university. I'm going to go do my best for my team, for my family, and like that's that.
Yeah. Um, Here quick before I let you go, what is the name of your podcast? You said Iron Summit is your fitness. Is that like your company? Do you want to
Yeah,
call it?
Iron Summit.
Okay.
Yeah, just search
Okay.
Iron Summit on any any podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, YouTube, whatever you get your podcasts.
Okay. So Iron
Yeah.
Summit's the name of the podcast. It's also the name of your fitness company. Do you have like a website or something that they can find?
Yeah, www.ironsummittraining.com.
Okay.
Or we have an Instagram, just Iron Summit, or go to my Instagram. It's linked in my bio, just Ryan Deakin. Right there, it's got all our links and all our different things.
Yeah, I'll post all that stuff in the show notes and make sure to say something about it when I at the beginning of the podcast so people know where to find it.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. You also said you were roommates with Sebastian Rivera for 4 years. How mad were you at him when he said he was transferring to Rutgers? Like, did
I
you
can't
like
be mad
not
at him.
talk to him? You can't.
No, I get it. Like he had to do what was best for him. That's what he felt was best. I was
Yeah,
sad. I'd love to have him
yeah.
on the team longer. We're still good buddies. I would talk to him at nationals too, and we'd hang out. I think I got a picture somewhere. We took a picture at Big Tens our last year, like our senior year. He's in his Rutgers stuff. I'm in Northwestern stuff. Yeah, that's my dude. I get
Yeah,
it. Like people got to do what's right for them, and he had his reasons, and he felt that that was right for him. And I wish he stayed at Northwestern, and would have been really cool. But I also was rooting for him while he wasn't, on our team anymore. And yeah, he's crushing it still. So yeah,
yeah,
he's doing his thing.
yeah. Last question for you here pertaining to your wife. Did you ever like what position did she play in soccer first off?
She was a defensive midi.
Okay. Do you
Yeah,
think you could score on her?
100%.
Could she score on you?
Uh, I mean, probably. I don't know. I say that kind of tongue in cheek.
I know,
We've
yeah.
like we've messed around playing soccer
Yeah.
for sure. I'm bigger than her. I probably foul her, knock her down and steal the ball. But no, she's a good soccer player, and it's fun. She's playing some like rec stuff out here, and they
Nice. Awesome.
they have like some of their forwards are a little bit older and kind of get winded, and she's like, "Why don't you just come play? Like you're competitive." And
Oh my
I
God.
would love to. I might do it, but I got like, I'm coaching wrestling. I like to like
Yeah.
lift weights, and it's like, how many more things am I gonna add? And if I like tear an ACL playing a rec league of soccer, I'm gonna really, really not be okay with that. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
she got me doing a high rocks. Actually, we're doing a high rocks here in about a month.
Really?
Yeah,
How'd you do that?
it's like a co-ed like it's a new type of race. It's basically running, but there's some like I don't know, sled pushes and rowers and like weighted lunges, stuff like that in between.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of fun. I've never got to like be on a team with my wife doing something competitive that's athletic. So it'll be interesting.
Dang, and she's a PhD student. Holy cow.
Yeah, no, she crushes it. She's awesome.
Oh my God. How'd she talk you into doing that?
That's a good question. She just really wanted to do it, and I just kept pushing. I was like, no, no, and then I'm like, whatever. She somehow made me. We went to Tahoe earlier this year
Nice.
just for like a weekend getaway. We got married up in Tahoe, and so it was like we'll go for
Nice.
a long weekend. And there was like some sign for a half marathon. And so she just finished a marathon and somehow signed us up for the half marathon the next day. So that was fun. So I'm collecting brownie points right now and I'm going to cash them in at
Good
some
way.
point, you know?
There you go. Yeah, yeah, good idea. Yeah, keep stacking them up because you just never know when you might need them. It
Yeah.
might also get you out of the doghouse too. You know, hopefully not, but yeah, gosh, well, that's awesome. Sounds like you're on a good trajectory and everything's maybe a little bit clear as mud as they may say right now, but eventually
Yeah.
things will become clear. And as long as it just seems like as long as you're moving forward, you just don't know where you're going yet, which is totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, everything's great, man. It's first world, like great families, great friends. I love what I'm doing. I'm enjoying every day and yeah, it's been awesome and uh yeah, life's great. It's a great time to be alive.